Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining myself and the amazing Mark Hinton with eYeFacilitate. I'm going to wait for a few minutes here while people join us, and we are also on LinkedIn Live right now. So we are going to really get into the nitty and gritty. I had the opportunity for Mark to come to my practice and give us a 2-day seminar, which has really escalated how we practice. And I wish I would have done this sooner, because in optometry school, we don't understand optical, we don't learn optical, and we don't even learn how to converse with our patients to make it easy in the optical for this transition. Yet, the majority of our income comes from our optical. So maybe it's something we should pay attention to. It's something that we should learn. And we have incredible experts out there willing to do this and help us. So thank you so much for joining me today, Mark. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely, Brianna. I'm really happy to be with you and welcome the folks that are going to join us on this webinar. My background is behavioral psychology. I did my graduate work in that. Then I went to engineering school for optics in Tampa, Florida. That was way back somewhere before fire. And never thought I'd use the psychology. When I started in practice, I've owned practices, purchased practices, built practices, and primary care optometry. I'm an optician, and it's a little bit of a different view because I clearly understand what I need from you, the optometrist, to be successful with your patient in optical. So we'll get into that a little bit, and I practice as you do in an optometry practice today, and I love it every day of the week. I find new reasons to get invigorated and help make patients really thrilled with what we do for them, and at the same time be profitable.
And that brings me to one thing, right? Which is passion. You have a passion for this, just like optometrists have a passion for helping our patients every day. And when those two collide, it truly is magical. What is something quickly that gets you out of bed every morning?
I think just the fact that for me, it's not work. I think it's really stimulating to be challenged by the patients who have a tendency to push back on us. We get those pushbacks. I just want a copy of my prescription. Why do they cost so much? I'll have to come back another time. I love those challenges. I don't mind the conflict or the confrontation from the patient, because what I understand is they're simply want a good reason to continue to stay there. Those people that actually don't care at all, they don't give us the opportunity. So most patients just need a good reason, and I find it really great to focus within the logic of why they would want to continue to focus and work with us. So it's a chess game. I want to win, and I want the patient to win at the same time. Brianna, I think that what we do in optometry is incredibly noble. Everything that the patient includes in eyewear is going to be an advantage for them. It's going to help them gain an advantage or avoid a disadvantage. And we just need to understand how to help get them there.
And for everybody joining, if you could put in the chat any questions that you have, and also where you're coming from. We like to also see that on where the reach is. But you brought up something there with the psychology piece to this with buying, right? We
Yes.
buy with our hearts and our brains, and then this logic side kind of takes over. So
Yes.
dive into just a quick minute on the psychology of buying.
Okay. So people buy with emotion and justify with logic. We have to make them want it instead of necessarily.
Say that one more time.
Yeah. We buy with our emotional brain and we justify with our logical brain. And so we need to make it logical for the patient. And in that regard, it is having them see it as a want instead of a need. It must be fascinating to recognize that most people own a closet full of really great goodies. Women love their shoes and their handbags. Men love their shoes and their watches. And we've got numbers of them. Yet most people own one set of glasses. And to get into this a bit further, it's like we call vision plans insurance, but they don't insure the patient for anything. And insurance is something we all buy, we don't want to use, but we want what's covered. So when we use the words like covered, overage, add-on, allowance, eligibility, unfortunately yours isn't covered, your insurance does this, your insurance. what we do is we really create walls and barriers in front of the patient who are going to make a purchase on something as beautiful as eyewear that they're going to wear every day. We've got to
And
invite
we'll
them
get into
back.
that in a second. So
Yeah.
don't give away all of our beans yet
Ah,
here, Mark.
yes.
All right. So with that being said, now we're going to jump into the meat of this presentation. So I am one of the co-founders of Dr.Contact Lens. I have a private practice in South Florida. So these are things that I deal with on a daily basis. I understand what we're up against as far as staffing and opticians and how important it is that we're training these people from the ground up. And then with Mark, what he does, we're going to talk about this prescribing word and what that comes with in weight of gold for the optician versus recommending. So we actually now have a kind of a swear jar in our opticals since Mark came to our practice on prescribing versus recommending. And this is a really, really hard habit to break, but just how one word that you can spin in your exam chair, how that makes Mark's and other opticians' jobs so much easier to fulfill what the patient needs can really escalate you here. So again, Dr. Brianna Rhue, co-founder and CEO of Dr.Contact Lens, and then I've got Mark Hinton here with eYeFacilitate, and you can check him out online. So let's jump right in here. Why is recommending a bad word? And what do our opticians really wish that we were saying to our patients?
Well, a great question. So recommendation is really a passive thing. And it's really great. It's like, I really recommend you try this restaurant. But prescribing is what doctors do. And I've literally repeatedly in my career had the wife sitting next to the husband when the husband says, yeah, I don't think I'm going to need that. And the wife goes, oh, but the doctor prescribed it for you. And so it has a weight to it. And in fact, that's what doctors do. When I go to my primary doctor, he never recommends anything. He says, Mark, I'll tell you what I'm going to prescribe for you and why I'm going to prescribe it, which gets us to the why. What I need and what other optical experts need is we really need to get to the why. We get a lot to the what. Be sure you wear good sunglasses so your eyes are protected outdoors. Well, that's good, but we didn't get to the why. Protected from what? From sun damage, which can lead to permanent vision loss over time. And that's one of the 5 factors that we really focus on when it comes to the potential for AMD is sun damage. And so if you prescribe it, it makes it easy for me when I'm sitting with your patient, Brianna, to say, so when you were in the exam room today with Dr. Rhue, you'll recall that she prescribed your sunglasses to reduce your risk of permanent vision loss over time from sun damage, and I'm going to make sure they're exactly the way she wants them for you. And generally, most people go, okay, and I'm going to stay away from the where we really lose it when we go, well, if you wanted to look at sunglasses, you get 50% off today, because now we made it about the money instead of what's really important. So that confuses the patient, in fact.
So what I found myself doing too is when I would recommend something, right? And then I would go out into I'm making it super difficult for my optical sales staff to get into the needs and wants of the patients. That's
Oh,
what we do so well in our exam chairs, listen to patients, yet we're actually not going the extra mile to prescribe to them what they came for us with, right? So I
yes,
always do look back at kind of what the patient came in, make sure that I kind of wrap all of that up in a pretty bow. The patients want our expertise, but we are judging patients a lot of the times by what we think that they can afford. And we have no idea, right?
right.
So when I'm doing that handoff in the optical, it just becomes super critical because we know that they always forget 90% of what I just said. So it's
Yes,
good to reiterate in front of you with the patient, this is what I'm prescribing to Miss Smith because she has a history or a family history of macular degeneration. We want to make sure that she doesn't go down that road like her father. We're making it personal, right?
yes.
I'm going to make sure that Mark fills these exactly as I've prescribed. And then now I've made your job exponentially easier.
Exactly, because boy, you gave some really good information there for us to focus on if I can remember it right now. So yes, absolutely, because my role is to reinforce what you just said, not to say, did you want to think about getting, or were you interested in, or Did you want to, I just say, I'm going to repeat it. So because you have the family history and your father had it as well, it's really important for Dr. Rhue that you don't become one of those statistics. So I'm going to fill that prescription for you exactly the way she wants it, with the filters and the treatments in place, so that you can have the confidence that your eyes are protected the way she wants them for you. And the patient says, okay. And I've already got the frames sitting there. It's likely they tried one or two on when they were picking out their primary set. So I've got the other ones there. Another point of focus that you brought up that's so beautiful is we need a checklist. The reason that planes don't fall out of the sky every day is not the tower. It's because of a checklist. And the checklist really has the itemized points of what you're going to check off on it, with closing points, so that you see sharp and clear out of your new glasses today, so that your eyes are protected from sun damage, so we reduce your risk of vision loss over time, so that we relax your vision so you're more efficient, productive, and comfortable working in front of your digital screens. These are all whys. Really important, and you helped me with this just now too. You're such an excellent interviewer, if you will. You gave me three things all at once, Dr. Rhue. The other thing is, doctors, avoid saying, this is my optical expert, Tom. He's going to help you with your glasses. Help is a four-letter ugly word for us. He's going to fill your prescriptions for you the way I want them, so that you and I have a level of confidence that we're protecting your eyes, or so that you and I can be sure that your eyes are relaxed and comfortable, you're efficient and productive in front of your computer all day long. And also, we discussed or we talked about. Well, discussed and talked about are fine as long as you follow it with, that's why I'm prescribing. And a subtle point that's really important is, during the handoff, most of your focus is eye to eye with the patient, not with the optical expert. You glance to the optical expert, simply referencing to the patient, and Tom's going to fill your prescriptions for you, and then looking back at the patient, so that you and I know that your eyes are protected when you're in this sun. And that's where we go with that. So I think that was a great questions. And I think that information would probably be really beneficial for all of our listeners.
So that brings us to our second point here. And I just went through this with a patient this morning that point blank said, I've never had an eye exam like this, and I want to actually take my prescription online. So it gave me a chance to say, okay, look, you can go buy a throwaway pair. That's fine. I hope that you do, but I want to make sure that we're going to maximize your benefits, and we'll get into that. So don't go into that quite yet.
Okay.
But I was saying, I want to make sure that these are filled exactly as I prescribe them, to give you clear, comfortable vision, exactly like we showed you when we were doing the prescription verification part. So that brings me here to, I don't have a good enough selection. How do I compete? And as this medical world reaches the commoditization of this fashion world, because we know that you love the fashion side and have so much fun in your optical, how do we compete if we feel like we don't have a selection? And why is it important that we like what we have?
Well, part of it is to understand immediately we're in charge of our cost of goods. And there are so many outlets for us to be able to purchase incredible products. In fact, if you asked many of your any of your frame representatives that come through the door, or even shared with them, look, I need to buy your overruns, the ones that you're not carrying in your bag anymore, that you sell for 65% off somewhere else. I need those, because I have patients that have a vision membership plan, and they want to buy glasses for what's covered. And so I need to be profitable there. In addition to that, when I say 65% off, those are available. We also have other resources when you look into it, to be able to buy really incredible frames, for dimes on the dollar. We just need to have those. Now, in our office, we don't display them. We have a rolling case that we found, on Amazon or eBay, and they have slide out trays, and we load it so that when we need to go that route, we know that we're going to capture our patient and keep our patient. One thing that you said that's really important is, We're humans. We respond to doubt and we respond to risk. We're the only animals that look both ways before we cross the street, which leads me to, in psychology, we have to have the patient understand the risk when they're going to purchase their glasses over the internet. We always adjust the front of the frame for panoscopic angle and vertex distance before we take a measurement. You can't do that on the internet. Therefore, the risk is now that you're not going to see as clear out of the glasses because we can't adjust them afterwards. We can, but now that changes the position of all the optics and the lens from the patient view. The other thing that's important is most patients who order their glasses are excited about that box that gets delivered to their doorstep until they get the glasses. They open the box, get the glasses, put them on their face, and what happens? They're too big, they're too small, they're too wide, they're too narrow, they're too tight here, they're too loose here, and they slide all the time. Back here pinches, and it wasn't exactly what they thought it was going to be. So the point is with the patient is what we find by and large is our patients are really disappointed with the glasses that show up on their doorstep because they didn't get to try them on. Why don't we just avoid that risk and you share a cost range that is a reasonable cost range that I should be respectful of so that you and I could feel confident your glasses match what Dr. Rhue prescribed, but at the same time, you actually love your glasses. Where do we need to be? And they usually give it up. They
Yeah.
need to understand the risk that's involved in it. So since we're recording this, this is probably going to be a big benefit for many.
Well,
What
and
am
I
I
think
missing?
what's interesting on that piece is it's allowing the patient to really maximize their benefits, right? And they
Sure.
can go and get that throwaway pair, but this is something that people are going to be looking at on their faces all day, every day, and they should be happy with it. So
Yeah.
don't be scared to ask for that save the sale. And I'm not a believer you that you charge for PD or that you do all these other things, right?
No.
The patient has already gone that way and they may be price conscious. They may be, they're busy and they have to get to work. So maybe you can bring them back for another appointment, just trying to get to the bottom of the line with the psychology behind why they're leaving.
And
That
and
can,
you and I
yeah,
need to interject right here. It's about concern. It's not about selling glasses. It's our concern of getting them right. And we as humans feel concern when it's real, when it's valid. And
yeah.
that's another thing that gets me out of bed every day
And
is
it's not
making
the please order from me. I'm a small business. Like we
no.
gotta stop that language. It doesn't do anything.
And I want
um,
to interject this when you said, yeah, we can use your benefits. There are many savvy consumers who have a vision plan, and the reason they have it is they get an exam from you for $20. They don't mind when, and they've tried using their vision plan, and the glasses after their vision savings is going to be $540, but they can buy them at Costco for $360 and they know it. So
mhm.
the point is, it's like you want to have glasses where you step out of the vision plan to be able to satisfy that patient who says, I don't want to spend more than $375. And even after their vision plan, you're going, we can't do that. Yes, you can. Buy smart.
Right.
The progressive lenses, you have great choices in progressive lenses that have a lower cost than that top tier lens, and they work very, very well.
So here, what do you wish that we would all say? One thing that would make your job easier in the optical so that you're not really combating the patient or selling the patient. What's one thing?
When you meet with my optical expert, they're going to fill your prescription for you exactly the way I prescribed them for you today, exactly the way you would want them, so that you and I have a level of confidence they're made perfectly for you.
And that's it.
Now all I've got to do is say, I'm going to fill it instead of going into salesy rhetoric.
And I love how you look at yourself, Mark, as this kind of optical pharmacist, right?
Yes,
Where I think we kind of
brilliant.
sometimes get caught up in our titles and what our responsibilities are, right?
Yeah,
But it's this really cool business that we're in where we get this medical meets fashion, meets all of it together. And if we really do a good job, together in the optical, then we can really make big advances in our practices.
I'm glad you said that. I think this is really an important point that you just brought up. Optical can be confusing for an optometrist because it's this sales area, right? It's this, we have the retail. I am going to beg, because this is one other thing that'll be helpful. Think differently about the optical. The optical is your pharmacy. And every lens, every treatment, every material index, everything that you're prescribing, every sunglass lens, every filter is going to gain an advantage for the patient or help them avoid a disadvantage. So you're prescribing from your optical pharmacy the same way that you would prescribe Regenerize for meibomian glands and Alipoflow and contact lenses, which we love. But we look at optical as kind of that redheaded stepchild. I don't know, I could say that I'm
It
married to a
is.
redhead, but we do. And so
Because it's confusing. You have cost of goods. You don't know what you pay for your lenses. You don't know what the vision plan gave you back. You
right.
don't know what there's a lot of numbers here, right? And
Well,
just like
and
our patients get overwhelmed with numbers, it's easy for us to get overwhelmed with numbers also.
yes, this is our pharmacy for eyewear. We need to look at it the same way that we look at anything else that we would prescribe and not be afraid of it or not go into something in psychology called MUS, made up stuff in our head. Oh, I don't want the patient to think I'm trying to sell them something. When your belief and your intention, your kindness, your compassion, and your care, and ultimately your concern are clearly aligned with your belief and your intention, your patient will never feel like it's coming across as something that you're selling because there is a why there that you want for them. There's what you didn't get in optometry school is you didn't get, we need to protect and preserve it for the long haul. I mean, the question comes up, what do you do when you see a pinguecula? Very rarely do we say, I want you to tell me about the sunglasses that you're wearing outdoors. Have you noticed this raised yellowish growth on the front of your eye? And they're, well, yeah. Well, that brings up the point that, we have a big opportunity for our contact lens wearers. We need to know where they purchased those Plano sunglasses, contact lens wearers, emmetropes, and post LASIK. So our pre-test assistants ask the patient who's an emmetrope, who is a post-LASIK or a contact lens patient, what brand are your non-prescription sunglasses? And the reason we're going to do that is because if it's a brand, they're proud of it. If it's not, they're sheepish about it. Well, they were kind of cheapies. I got them at Target behind the ladies' purses. And it's like, they know there's something that's not right here, and it's not. First of all, there are no government regulations on imported sunglasses. Many of them are acrylic, and acrylic doesn't refract light well. It actually diffracts light, and many of them have a spray-on ultraviolet filter, so that's a huge risk when it washes off. Exactly. So now we have a tangible reason to prescribe our sunglasses for our patients, and you need two levels. You need your Maui's or your Costas or your Canons, but you also need an entry-level sunglass because according to Jobson and Vision Council, the typical contact lens patient wants to pay less than $60 for their first set of sunglasses. And if you don't have them, they will leave. And when they leave and they buy elsewhere, their buying habit is now not established with you. And when we lose their buying habit, it's intrinsically difficult to get them back.
Well, and you kind of marked on the spot. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he was talking about life longevity, right? So we went from dying at literally 26 or 27 years old. We doubled that to 55. We're adding again, where life expectancy is 75 to 80. And he's
I'm so
looking on
glad
how
because
we're
I
going
got
to
a lot to
double
do
it
and I'm almost
again,
there. Yes.
right? But we're doubling this again. So it's
Yeah.
super important and super critical that these younger years in our lives, when all of this damage really happens, is that we're having these conversations with
Yes.
the patient. So if we're losing vision in our 70s and 80s, that's obviously not a good thing. But I want to get more. We'll get into the sunglass thing here in just a second. And maybe my chat is not working. So if you have any questions, put it in the Q&A and also put, I guess, where you're from in the Q&A here. But here, why are our patients confused? how can we get rid of friction in the optical? And I think my next question here is, we've really taught these vision plans. The vision plans have taught our patients how to talk to us, and we need to learn how to talk back to take care of them. So how do we get rid of this friction where it's like
Yeah.
this coding, you've got this UV, you have this copay and this, like, how can we wrap that all up? And why is it important not to do it in front of the patient where you're adding all of these things up? Why is it important to take it behind the desk?
Well, it makes people nervous, for one thing, when they see calculators. We call calculators wrongulators because they add everything up. So we're not going to do that. The other thing that I'm not going to do is hand them an itemized receipt. We have itemized receipts because we have to submit them to, the vision plan companies, so we get reimbursed, and then they take a whole bunch of money away from us at the same time. So for the patients, I simply say, is your credit card receipt sufficient for you? If they go, no, I need an itemized receipt, I say, great, I'll have it for you when you pick up your glasses. I don't want you to have to wait for that. And the other part of that too is not confusing the patients. Ask better questions before the doctor steps into the exam room. No yes, no answers from patients. Do your eyes ever feel dry or scratchy or irritated? Nope. Ask any man, how have your eyes been doing? We're men, we'll go, fine. So we have to ask better questions. Where are you hoping you're going to see better? Where are you hoping that Dr. Rhue is going to help you see better than you've been seeing? Long distance, close up, your desk, driving at night. How many hours do you spend on a computer? Oh, I live on the computer. Well, wow, how many? Well, 7, 8 hours. Do you use a laptop or desktop? Do you use a monitor attached to that? How many monitors? Because it's all important. We know that blank diminishes, and so we really have to. Then the assistant says, wow, that's a lot of time on the computer. With that amount of time, do you find that your eyes tire out earlier in the day or later in the day? And we're leading them to give us an answer other than yes or no. Because now what we did was we gave the doctors targets, not to cause friction and confusion, but to address it. Most people own one set of glasses because we really don't find out what the other glasses are. And we're kind of sheepish about really actually prescribing sunglasses. And then the other friction is the optician saying, so were you interested in, have you heard of, have you ever considered, if you were thinking you wanted? So we got to that one thing that I'd really like from you that makes it easy for me to just say, I'm going to make sure.
Yeah.
And then that leads to less friction because I'm matching what the doctor said in the exam room, so the patient isn't so confused. I worked with a practice years ago, and we invited 20 patients and walked them through the patient journey to tell us, where did we confuse them? Remember me telling you about this?
Yes, I
And
do.
19 of the 20 said, shouldn't the optician already know what I'm supposed to be getting? Why are they asking me if I'm interested in this or that? Do they make more money, get a commission if they try to sell me something? Who owns this optical? And then this was interesting because 18 of the 20 in some way said, I'm confused or not confident when I get to optical. So the confusion and the friction happen when we're not speaking the same language, asking smart questions to start with, to set up targets to prescribe for, and then leading the patient in the exam room. And one other thing, we must get the patient agreement in the exam room. When you get to the why, because I want to make sure that we eliminate the risk of vision loss from sun damage in your eyes, Carrie, can you see where this will be a good decision? Or
Mhm.
can you see where this is going to be an advantage? Now you involve the patient, and when they're engaged and they give an answer, they're more likely to fill it. In fact, we know that the capture goes up when the patient says, I can see that being a good decision, or yeah, that sounds like a good advantage. And it can't be the what, it's got to be the why. And the why is what's in it for them if they take your advice.
The other piece to this that I really liked how you said it was, when we do get into the optical, is not only that concern that we have for the patient, but it's relaying everything again and bringing it back to that why. So now we're in that emotional piece for the
Yes.
patient. So it makes it easier on that emotional buy. But then we get to this side where I only want what my insurance covers. I only want what this covers, right? So now we have a big heavy lift here on what we need from the patients. So then they only know how to talk in monies and tier one and tier two and tier three, right? So this kind of good, better, best that's really been helpful on wrapping that all up for the patient.
Yeah, I if I'm following on you on this, it's like that patient is they're tentative. It may be a fear of money. It may be they didn't actually get to look at the tag and make the decision. They need somebody that they know or don't know to help them with the decision. And I think it's really important that I say, look, I want to make sure that when you leave the office, it's a brag-worthy experience. You're happy with your decisions today. Give me some guidance on how to help you with this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, you know what, I want to understand what's most important. I'm not sure I can do this all today. I'm not sure I can include the sunglasses. And we did like $247,000 in care credit because when I shared with the patient, look, you know, many of our patients prefer to buy their glasses, and you'll hear many of our patients because it needs to be social proof, social validation. Other patients do it. Many of our patients prefer to buy their glasses over 6 to 12 months with no interest. And we've partnered with a national company that permits you the opportunity to be able to, number one, protect your eyes when you're out in the sun, and number two, see sharp and clear again about 10 days from now. Could I help you with this? It just takes about 3 minutes. And that's helpful. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, so that brings us right in here to the next question here. So what is some language that we can use? And I was notorious for not doing this, but have gotten way better because all of us are on devices and computers and we're worried about blue light and then our sunglasses and things like that. So we have to prescribe second pairs in order for our second pair sales to go up. And by doing that, we're doing what's best for the patient. So again,
Yes.
that's listening and asking predominant questions that are going to lead the patient into what they want and need also. So how
Yes.
can we easily increase second pairs?
Well, easily by prescribing it and not having the fear of not letting the made up stuff come into the head. And I'll tell you this, forget about the money. Just stop with the money. Just clear your head of the money. Just what do you want for your patient and why do you want it? Most people are logical thinking. If you have me understand that the leading cause of permanent vision loss as we age is macular degeneration, and then you say, I see it every week in clinic, and I don't want it for you. I don't want you to be one of those statistics. So I wanted you to understand what I see that patients see. And then we use images. And the
Mhm.
images are really clear. Macular degeneration in a normal state. This is what macular degeneration can do. And then we show them pictures of pinnacle. We show them what it looks like to read on the page. And it's very sincere. You want to make these pieces because they're very, very powerful in the exam room. A picture's worth 1,000 words. That really helps the patient see it for themselves. You ever hear a picture's worth 1,000 words?
A few
That's worth
times
a
we've heard
thousand
that saying.
words. Yes. So use images to support it and then forget about the money. Don't care about the money. Care about your process from start to finish of the patient journey and do the right thing. Have the belief and the intention that what you're doing is right and just be and forget about the fact that the just get rid of the whole idea that the optician is supposed to sell stuff. They
Yeah.
don't. The house is built in the exam room. Don't hand a bag of bricks to the optician and say, here you go, because you already know the optician doesn't finish and you're wondering, how come I can't get an optician to come and pick up this patient? Because
Right.
you're asking them to build the house. And frankly, the patient wants the doctor to build their house.
So the contact lens patient, where are they going to buy once we fit them? And this, we can wrap this into the sunglass discussion also. So I was notorious for thinking that we didn't sell sunglasses, and here I am in South freaking Florida, right? And
Yeah.
our sunglass rate was so low. And fortunately now we've already increased that by 20% since Mark has come on board. He goes, Brianna, everything in your optical can be a sunglass. Like, what a mind blowing moment when he was there. I was like, well, perfect. That was worth every penny of Mark coming to our optical. And
Yeah.
it's when these patients have 4 to 5 frames in front of them. That's all really that you need to select from, right? And you're choosing these for the patients. But why is it important then, or why can we turn any pair into a sunglass? And now you can really see all of this thrive.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, since we're on that, I want to share a couple of things with you. We see patients that are starting cataracts. We see patients that are starting with early macular degeneration. We're seeing drusen, and it's a precursor for sure. And when we see that, we switch them out of their gray sunglass lenses and we switch them immediately into brown. Brown filters blue at a higher level. Obviously, it improves contrast as well. So those patients that are starting to lose some acuity are happier with brown. And I want to share this as well. 7 out of 10 of our patients who are post-op cataract implant patients, they stay with brown afterwards, because as we age, we lose contrast sensitivity.
Mhm.
So I think it's incumbent on us not to just say, well, gray is the darkest, because actually, many people who switch to brown prefer it. It's just sharp and clear and beautiful. And in addition to that, I think that it's back to the MAs, the medical assistants, asking the patient, what brand are your non-prescription sunglasses? That sets the doctor up. When the patient comes in and they're wearing TJ Maxx sunglasses, it's really important for the doctor to say, listen, my assistant shared with me that you purchased your sunglasses at TJ Maxx. And I want to share with you, that's a huge risk to your eye health. And I want to show you why. And you do this with contact lens patients as well.
So
And
there
what you
was a
do,
question in the chat where they were
yeah,
saying you were talking about the sunglasses that are in that $60 range to the
yes,
patient. Is there a brand that you recommend that's an easy buy-in, or
yes.
where could we find some of
Yeah,
these things?
absolutely. So for us, we did a lot of research. We wanted to find the best we could that would be a decent, really good quality. And we found a polarized polycarbonate with a vast assortment of frames from Ideal Optics, and it's called Sun Trends.
Okay.
And it's about $18 a SKU. So now we can list it at 119. We do not RX them. We do not have them available on vision plans. And so then we provide it to them for $59.50, because that got under that $60 range that people wanted to spend. We never start with that. They're not
Okay.
even displayed, but because we lead everything. But we're going to start with our Mauis and our Costas and our Canans and whatever other ones are extraordinary. And if they say no, we're going to step them down and say, well, then I need to be sure that you wear a sunglass that Dr. Rhue has inspected and understands is going to protect your eyes. So I'm going to show you what you can choose from so we can feel confident your eyes are protected from sun damage. And they're good with it.
And it's something too, as your opticians are helping style the patient, right? Is to
Yes.
grab a sunglass, because as you're going behind the desk, you're going to see patients that'll kind of put on
Mhm.
frames, right? That are
Yes.
just sitting there. So it's supposed to be fun. I think one thing that's really the pandemic, and I really saw this when Mark came into the office, is we've made optical so sterile the last
Yes.
3 years, and we quit having fun with our patients, right? So it was sit here, don't look at that frame, don't touch that frame, I have to sanitize it, don't touch that pen, sit
Right.
here. Like, we can now get back into having fun in the retail aspect of this, knowing that we're medically taking care of the patient.
Mhm.
So one last question here, the revenue per patient that you talk about, what's one strategy that we could increase contact lens patients comfort and protection, and then that magical number, right? We don't need to see more patients. We need to work smarter, not harder. And by increasing something, by just seeing one more patient today, or selling one more pair of glasses today, or making a patient into a contact lens patient, you can grow your practice by 10 to 15%.
So
So it
true.
is about these little additions that you're building your empire with in order to take care of your patients. And by recommending or now prescribing, you're taking care of your practice, not a year from now or 3 years from now or 5 years from now, because I feel it. We all feel the tension. Like AI is here, Chat GPT, all these things are coming and they're supposed to take our jobs, right? Guys, optometry is so bright. You have no idea. There's not going to be enough of us. And patients want to still see a human, and healthcare still is human. And we have this privilege to take care of vision for such a long time. So don't forget that. This is a opportunities that are here for the next 15, 75 years. Mark, you've been in this a long time. LASIK was going to put us out of business. Then
Right.
the autorefractor was going to put us out of business. And then we have these other things that are going to put us out of business. And that's only opened up access. So why is revenue per patient? What is something easily that we could be looking at?
Well, you said for contact lenses, immediately what comes to mind is our Plano sunglasses are passive. So we have to identify it up front with all the emmetropes and contact lens patients. What brand are their sunglasses that they're wearing now? And then doctors must absolutely prescribe with why and be concerned about the risk and show images of pingueculas and pterygiums, and these are real things. And then in addition to that, it's prescribing it on purpose, with what the patient will benefit from. And that would be huge. The other thing that I advise with every single contact lens patient, since most of them don't buy prescription sunglasses, is at a minimum, be sure that you're prescribing a sun darkening lens to protect their eyes when they're not wearing their contact lenses for whatever reason, because a sun darkening lens is going to filter out between 80 and 95% of the the high energy visible short wavelength light that we call blue light, which is hazardous to the skin. Therefore, it's hazardous to eyes. Both of those are two huge opportunities to increase our revenue per patient for contact lens patients. For our other patients, our non-contact lens patients, we ask every patient that's probably 25 to 35 years old. That's kind of that range because it's low-hanging fruit. We're not into multifocal contacts at that point. When do you find that wearing your glasses can be annoying? Is it your sport, or when you're working out, or when you want to just mix it up and go out for the evening? And a lot of patients that tried contact lenses when they were 25 and now they're 33, the advancements in the lenses is huge. Maybe it was off their radar then. Maybe they couldn't afford it then. Maybe they had problems with fit then. We revisit it. And I'll tell you what, if you could increase 2 out of 10 of your glasses patients to wear an occasional wear contact lens in the form of a daily, that's rich, and they're happy. And by the way, they like glasses, so they'll get both.
And I think one thing to just finish this all up is just remember companies, right? Customer acquisition cost for other companies is very high. That is why you see so many ads on TV, is because they are hoping that we mess up. They're banking on that we mess up in this transition and this handoff with the patient. One of the online retailers, it's known that they spend over $125 for a customer acquisition cost to get that prescription. You already have it. So
People.
where can you invest in your practice? You already invested to become a physician and take care of vision. Now it's up to you to invest in your equipment, in staff trainings, which is, obviously where I found Mark Hinton. So Mark, can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Mark at eYeFacilitate.com, eYeFacilitate.com. And that's the easiest way to reach me directly. I'm happy for any of your listeners. If you've got one question that you're looking for a little bit more validation or verification on, I'm happy to provide you an answer for that as well. I think what's really important is that, people buy people. We buy people, and we buy people that we like. So I think we need to be very likable in a very sincere way, very approachable. And I think that's all of our team. We tell people when we hire them, please never come to work. Work is an ugly 4-letter word that really leads to mediocrity. We say, please come to participate and contribute at a very high level. We run our business using Traction, which is an EOS and an
Mhm.
entrepreneurial operating system. It's extraordinary.
That's
Your
a book
growth
if everybody's listening.
it, it's
So
it's a
Traction is a
book.
book.
It's a
Yep.
book. It's worth buying the book because you'll highlight and underline for really having good communication, intercommunication in the office. My favorite book is by Kim Scott. It's called Radical Candor. That's how we run our business to communicate between each other in the office. Those are my two faves. And I would be absolutely thrilled to work with any of your teams in your office. And I'll share with you what that looks like when you contact me. And
Mark, do you have
Dr.
any question for me?
What's that?
Do you have any questions for me that you would wish the doctors would learn more about? Now that I'm putting you on the spot.
It's good. No, it's really good. Yeah, I do. I feel like what I'm hearing from you is after we worked together and I provided you with resources when I was on site, you really went to work on those resources and you've implemented.
Mhm.
So I would say to you, did you implement a lot of what I brought to you?
I would say we implemented about to 50% of what you said. So we're still kind of in that growth phase. Just
Hmm.
like many people on the call, it comes down to bandwidth, right? And
Yes,
we had this kind of revolving door at the
right.
front. So now that we've got this team, now I can kind of start to ingrain in them getting back to the basics. And that's essentially what you helped us do and helped me see is really having more fun in the optical and that it's not this scary
No,
place. Like there's literally one doctor in our practice who actually is he's retiring and we are doing these little cards for patients to fill out. So
nice.
he's
Yeah.
retiring on March 30th coming up here. And what did they enjoy most about Dr. Garmizo? And it's really cool what these patients are saying. He took
Mhm.
his time. He looked me in the eye. He didn't rush me. He listened and prescribed what I was needed. He saw many of my family members. So it really is that we get that time with our patients. And yeah, we can see many, many patients a day. And that's what we're really, really good at as optometrists and is establishing that. So where you are here 30, 40, 50 years from now within optometry, it's a very, very special
Yeah.
career. So just remember that even outside forces or what's happening, you have a lot within your practice that you can escalate. And then just one thing here with Dr.Contact lens. So I built that because I got so tired of patients asking for copies of their prescription, and there was no way for me to not be defensive, right? And then it's all about the data that we have sitting in our practices and actually mining it. So
Right.
understanding what you have there that you can go after in taking care of a community, right? That's essentially what we're doing at the end of the day. And now that we're post COVID and post this, I might die tomorrow, or this kind of holding on, we can
Mhm.
now get back to these 1 year, 3 year, 5 year visions. 10
Yes.
years is obviously things are traveling so fast. So I don't even know if we could plan for 10 years from now, but start kind of getting out of that survival mode that you're thinking for the longevity of your practice. So, just a little thing, I just read a book called Apollo's Arrow, and it talks about this. So, like the pandemics of the past, right? This is not the first one, probably, hopefully, in our lifetime will be the last one. But if we're living to be 150 years old, who knows, right? But
Yes.
that's literally what we've been in. So 2020 was supposed to be the year of the optometrist. We had so many great plans. I'm sure that you did too, Mark. But
We
go
did.
find that. Go find your plan from 2020 and start operating back in that excitement. And I think that's what we get to bring to our patients.
You just light up my brain. It's incredible. I want to share this. It's the reason that your favorite team wins the game and ends up at the Super Bowl of whatever the sport is because they practice it weekly.
Mhm.
If they won the game, they don't sit on their laurels and go, yeah, we'll probably do it next week. We measure weekly. We measure our optical KPIs every single week, and we meet every single week. Because if you try to take a month's worth of data in one 30-minute or 45-minute meeting, you can't do it. You
Right.
have to look at the production last week compared to the week before and see, are you up, are you flat, or are you down? If you're up, good. You're all really focused together in the right direction. If you're flat, you're not working at it. If you're down, you took your eye off the ball. The
So
thing that I
Mark,
love,
that also, are you the one within your practice looking at those numbers and bringing it to the doctor? Is it the doctor looking at those numbers and bringing it to there? Because I still, again, it comes to bandwidth, right? We're the
yes,
engine in our opticals, we're the engines in our businesses. And it's hard when you're the one seeing 20 to 25 patients a day, not sleeping at your practice to get all these numbers. So I
I,
have like my right-hand person that I'm like,
yes,
I need XYZ. Make sure that you have very capable people in your practice that can help you do this. So do that.
my optical manager provides that,
Okay.
and it comes to the meeting with it. And part of that is using traction. We know specifically what we're going to do.
Okay.
Measure
And
it
are
and
there
grow.
5 numbers that you're looking at? Can you
Yeah,
just throw those out there and then we
I
can wrap it up?
absolutely can. So because we're always building our photochromic capacity, okay, we want to be at 70% all the time, and most all the time we are. That's just an annuity for the practice, by the way. We always measure that. We measure our capture rate in complete sets. We measure and make sure that we are under 15% of patients using their own frames again.
Mm,
Anything over that is too much. And then we're also measuring prescription sunglasses and non-prescription sunglasses. Those are measurements we're always going to do every week forever until the end of eternity or optometry.
yeah. And it's also really one last thing to end on. Remember, our brains for thousands and thousands of years of evolution like negative, right?
Oh
It's
yeah,
important that you do focus on some of the positive, not on like this walkout rate and these things and beating your team up. It's about what you're doing well and building around that. So building your team around that, and that's you as a leader too. So one thing too that was just recently shared with me is we all love looking at our great reviews and then we get that negative review. But what's really cool is we've never actually looked at our competitors' negative reviews to see what they're saying and could we get ahead of it. So that could be something that's fun in your optical or in your meeting, is to just
that's
pull up
brilliant.
an optical around you and just go look at their negative reviews and start planning around that. And then there's
Brilliant.
so many things. What we did on Tuesday in our optical staff meeting was we aren't going to have doctors on Thursday because some of us are going to expo and whatnot. But I came up with, guys, what are 6 revenue generating things that you guys can do while the doctors are not here, right? And
Yes.
just let them riff on it. And now they're ahead of what they can do while the doctors aren't here. So obviously getting caught up in things like that, but going in and collecting what's there or getting the book full. So there's many, many things that people can do. So you can
Can I
again,
add one thing to that?
of course.
So when the doctors are gone for whatever reason, we use something called Edge Pro
Mhm.
from GPN. We go in and we look at the patients by group who bought certain frames, and so we know we like them. And we give them a call on the phone and say, Carol, I wanted to leave you a message because nobody answers their phone. I wanted to leave you a message and tell you we just had a refresh of the Kirk and Kirk, and I know how much you love yours. You got to swing by and see what just came in. You're not going to believe this. And they come because I
Mm.
got them excited about it and they thought I was just thinking of them. So that's an excellent tool when the docs are out to invite the patients to come back in for what you've refreshed that they haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And I'll end with this. So on Dr. Contact Lens website, there's a little QR code that you can scan right there. Just go in and take this little quiz that we've done on how you can also get in this buyer's mentality. So there are softwares that need to bolt onto your EMR to help you profit. So this is not a pitch for Dr. Contact Lens as much as I wish that everybody would use it. It truly is something that I can't live without in my practice. And it's all about patient engagement, right? Getting your patients to order from you when they can. And then we're asking people, and maybe you can speak to this one last thing, but we're asking people to spend 7, 8, 9, $1,000 on a frame. And then when it comes to us investing in our practice, we can't back it out, right? So look at the ROI with things that you can bring to your practice. Look at a training with Mark, right? It's not an inexpensive day. We shut down our optical for 2 days. That's a lot of revenue. But if you look again futuristically on what this is building, for your practice and for your patients to connect everything back, your optical, your staff, and your patients will thank you for lifetimes. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. This will be available for all of those that have registered for you to view it back. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And thank you again, Mark, for
You're
your
such
time.
a fabulous host, and I thank everybody that took their valuable time to be here with us.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.